Almost missed the runway there. I'm going to keep it on this video if I ever fall out of this chair while I'm sitting down. I'll let everybody laugh at me. Everybody deserves a good laugh. Once in a while. It'd be even more funny if I sat on it and it just cracked and fell apart. That'd make people laugh even more. Oh my goodness. Did you know that this has been a study done many times in different parts of the world where they show babies that before they're jaded by their parents and they're indoctrinated into believing stuff, you know, little babies that can't talk. They show them pictures of all different things, people's faces and creatures and all sorts of things, and they watch the reaction, and it's palpably measurable and empirical that babies do absolutely recognize beauty. I mean, it's for sake of nature, natura naturans, that we see, you know, mating rituals of birds and whatnot, that they'll actually pick the best symmetry and beauty of a mate. And yeah, this, because I don't have any looks, you know, I'm fat, bald, and tattooed, and, you know, I'm not horrifically ugly, but I'm certainly, I don't know where I'm at on a scale of 1 to 10, but it might be around 4, so I don't know where I'm at. Yeah, completely realistic. But beauty is palpable, and it is measurable. It is the logos and proportionality. And speaking about the logos, and people love to talk about the golden ratio. What is the golden ratio? They say, oh, it's beauty in nature. It's like, well, all you did is pontificate without being descriptive, and certainly not so explicative. You didn't explain anything. Specifically to proportionality of something as manifest, which of course anything is palpable with mass and magnitude in the universe, including people's faces and flowers and spirals and everything, is palpable and has mass and magnitude. Relationship to the One. What is its logos in relationship to the One? This, of course, is a beauty, but the divine, of course, cannot be seen. Neither can inertia or pure potential, which has no Cartesian value. Human beings, whether they be embodied or disembodied beings, yes, nobody can see the divine. It's only by the works shall we know what it is and its relationship thereof, or lack of relationship thereto. And you can also, too, tell a lot about society when they actually cleave towards what is ugly, and I don't mean, you know, physical ugliness, but they actually embrace it over the logos of the One. Human beings are meant to, by very nature, to cleave towards the logos, and then, of course, ascend. We cleave towards beautiful, and what is beautiful because it is most close to the One, even though, of course, it is temporary. You could take the most beautiful person on earth, and of course they're doomed to get old, and, you know, the face will transfigure and droop and melt, kind of like a wax candle, obviously so. So it only has that for a while. But everything in nature, including those little babies, those little tests that were done, kept showing pictures of different faces, they recognize what is beauty. But what is beauty is relationship proportionality of that thing, as far as it being in proportion to the One. When we see things that are beautiful, what we're looking at is the existential manifestation of the One and the proportionality, or the logos thereof, relational to the divine. Everything cleaves towards the divine, except for those things that are evil. And of course, evil is not doing evil, rather the love of and clinging towards evil. Evil, by definition, of course, worships what is ephemeral and temporal, and what is against or revolts against the logos or the divine. And for these people, there is no rest. It's like feeding, not that this is a real fireplace, like feeding a fireplace, you're perpetually having to pile up logs, clean out the fireplace. There's no such thing as rest. You can't actually take any rest in evil, because it is against what is closest to the One. This is the reason why the expression of evil is to do work, to expend energy. I mean, what would be the definition of hell is perpetual expenditure of energy rather than falling, which is the opposite of energy, just as gravity, or that thing that we call gravity. Of course, I got many videos on gravity. Is the complete opposite of the expenditure of energy. Force is expenditure of energy. Evil, by definition, is force, is burning energy, is wasting time and life and effort to perpetually feed something that is bottomless is limitless. But the beauty that we actually see in nature is no different than gravity, no different than falling, not ultimately no different than gravity. But it requires the opposite of force. What is the opposite of force? Falling is not a force, it's an acceleration. However, I've talked endlessly too about gravity, where two bodies actually do not accelerate towards one another, rather towards the lowest null pressure point between the both. The correct observation, as far as all observations of humanity throughout time of so-called gravitation, of two or more bodies accelerating, they've always said they're accelerating towards one another, but they're actually not. They're accelerating. You can see this underneath the supercell, and it is undeniable as far as making grand unification of field theory, in other words, unifying all fields, just like unifying ice, water, and steam, which are already unified. Nature has always been unified as human beings that, of course, are not intellectually unified to see things clearly as they are and see things as they are in themselves. Acceleration not towards each other in the case of gravity of two or more objects, rather towards the lowest null pressure point between the two. So you can have a correct observation, demonstrably correct observation, repeatable demonstrably correct observation, yet an incorrect explanation. The logos of what is beautiful and divine, unfortunately, you see it in society, and this is what happened in Rome, and I see it in the current society today, where instead of cleaving towards the divine and cleaving towards beauty, we are actually doing an expression of evil is to take something beautiful and make it profane, to make it ugly. You recognize the beauty in it, but you wish to destroy it. It is true metaphysically that the self is always at war with what is not the self. This is the reason why, seemingly so, the most beautiful and rich people on earth are so miserable. And of course, they see the changing face in the mirror that changes day by day. They can't keep it up. But, you know, for example, the really, really beautiful people, you know, they get upset with the fact that, you know, this is a mass of existential components which necessitatively must change over time. And they desire that beauty, and they get warped by the flux of that beauty. And even though they are extremely beautiful, for example, they revolt against it because the spirit is always, this is an ancient saying, this is not my saying, spirit is always at war with what is not spirit. What is not spirit, of course, is the psychophysical, existential persona non grata, forms, feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness, i.e. the heap of existential existence, i.e. the body, and the conscious constituent of the melding, the harmonics between the two, and that too is the logos. Life itself is the logos proportionality between matter and spirit. Death is no different than breaking the radio. You still have all the components there. There's an ancient thing in the Nikkayas too, it's the Majjhima Nikaya. It talks about the most beautiful girl in the land. And he says, Rahula, I think Gautama says that Rahula said, don't you know this is the most beautiful person in the land? I forget her name. He's like, yes, yes, everybody wants to be with her and wants to date her. So, yes, 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 Lord Gautama. And he said that she died. Do you know that she did? Yes, I heard about she died. And he said, isn't this still the most beautiful person in the land? And well, but well, no, now nobody, you know, wants, you know, everything is existentially identical, but the life is no longer there. So you have the beauty of the heap, but since this being is now deceased, you know, all the millions of people that wanted to hang out with this beautiful person or be with them, you know, wants nothing to do with it, because now it is a lifeless form. And you could also always throw this at the nihilists and the atomists. They think the body is just a lump of flesh and blood. It's like, well, the TV is just a bunch of, or this computer is just a bunch of constituent components. You know, there's no fireplace in this TV. There's no soul in the body, but that's not a denial of the soul. There's no signal inside the radio either. Death would be no different than, of course, breaking a radio. All the constituent components are still the same, but it no longer operates. This beauty, which is a different level of beauty, is the consubstantiality of the constituency of the logos or proportionality between matter and spirit, which of course makes a living being. And this itself is beautiful. This is a reason why life is beautiful. Life is pain, life is suffering, all that of course is true. But life is also too extremely rare and extremely beautiful. I mean, take a telescope, look anywhere, even in this solar system, and life is insanely rare. Even though there's a lot of human beings on Earth, life ultimately across the universe is insanely rare. And this, of course, is the logos of the consubstantiality of matter and spirit. And there's another logos, which, of course, is the beautiful. Society is failing at a lot of different fronts right now because evil is being enjoined such that it takes revolt against that which is beautiful. I have like 95% coverage of tattoos on my body. Like about 95%. Everything's covered, right? When you start taking a beautiful person, and I see this a lot, and I'll like watch funny stuff or like informational stuff on Instagram, and as I'm scrolling by, there'll be like a really beautiful, one of them is a sister of a famous person, and they have a face tattoo. Tattoos are one thing. When you have face tattoos, that's another. People really are subliminally revolting against what is beautiful, what is proportionality of the logos. So people feel free to get face tattoos all they want. People say, well, what about the Maori people? They have these chin tattoo mokos. I don't even think the Maori people, some of them will say it's beautiful, but it was put there as an intimidation tactic against their enemies originally. And they didn't originally do mokos, which is what they call them, on the Maori people of New Zealand because, this is super beautiful, even though they'll say that, and I've heard them say that, and I think some of them are quite beautiful. They put them there to intimidate people. When I see people, and I see a lot of it, even though I'm covered in tattoos, I got a lot of tattoos. When you see like really beautiful people completely scarifying their face and doing horrible things, to their face, you just see this zeitgeist where, collectively society is revolted against beauty. And this, of course, is timeless, unfortunately, since the self is always at war with what is not the self, getting back to the divine and the logos, the proportionality of beauty. But to take something that is beautiful and purposefully destroy it, there was just this exponential increase in the past decade. I'm certain most of this is due to stresses in society, EMF, the foods that we eat, the disgusting water that we drink. People are bombarded by all sorts of stresses and frequencies. Human beings literally are becoming more, I can see it. When I go all sorts of different places, people are getting more and more and more unhinged. Just like completely out of touch with reality unhinged. And when humanity, by and large, on a great scale, revolts against that which is beautiful, which is most close to the divine. Because nobody can see the divine because the divine is subjective and transcendent. And it is certainly not so empirical, but that which is closest to the divine, that which is beautiful. And everybody that actually follows natural order, including everything in nature, naturally cleaves to the divine, to the logos. The divine is manifest, is what I should have said. The logos, that which is beautiful, and then when you cleave towards that which is beautiful, if it's brought to fruition, then somebody ascends. But you cannot revolt against beauty in the logos and ascend. Completely impossible. Complete roadblock. Nobody can revolt against the logos and what is beautiful and ascend. Completely, 100% impossible. So we are really entering in what the Indians would call the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga could have started 100 years ago. We could all debate about when the Kali Yuga started, but we are really entering it right now. People are praising death. Canada is implementing some of the most evil things I've ever heard of. They're like soft-soaking death and sticking people in these booths where you hit a button and you end yourself within like a few minutes. It's just evil. It really, there's just so much of it that's going on. Once again, evil by definition worships what is ephemeral and temporal, and it takes revolt against the logos, takes revolt against the divine and beauty. All of which these three things are really one thing. And kind of like a shamrock, yeah, That's where we get the Trinity from. Not that specifically. There's another Trinity, a metaphysical Trinity. But I see this in the zeitgeist. This revolt against the Logos, the divine, and the beautiful. And this, in any other words, is absolutely evil. When you start seeing some of the most beautiful women in the world that are, who are not under substance use, like scarring their faces and, doing, people say, well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's just total bunk. That is a relativism, nihilistic view that, well, beauty's relative. That's just not true at all. I'm fat. Okay? I'm way out of shape. I'm actually beyond fat. I know that. I admit that. I love it when people tell me, you're really fat, you're obese. I know that. As someone that's overtly fat, yeah, I will be the first person to tell you that, and I know people are dealing with stresses and stuff in life, and they look for body positive image. We're putting I see it in Western society. They're trying to supplant or brainwash people that being really, 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 really unhealthy fat is beautiful. And it's not. It's absolutely not. That's a violation against natural order. It's a violation against the Logos and the divine. It's I'm really, overworked, I ate too much, I don't get enough exercise, really fat. It's shameful. People, and I can say that as a fat person, people should be shamed and should feel ashamed and self-shamed. Not that they need to be shamed by everybody else so they make their life miserable. I do get that. Nobody wants to be made miserable all the time by pointing out what is bloody freaking obvious. But people should be self-ashamed. We should not be giving praise to that which is evil and ugly and unnatural. And it just is. I know being fat is unnatural. I know this is unhealthy. Have a really sharp mind. Tattooed monkey, whatever you want to call me, not stupid. I know what's going on. I just wanted to talk about the divine, the Logos, and beauty, and the fact that society is very, very quickly going off the rails. Nobody can cleave away from the Logos, the divine, and what is beautiful, and have a path to ascension. It's completely impossible. It's just complete. It's like hating heaven but wanting to get there. I hate heaven but I want to go there. What? You hate the Logos, you hate the divine, and you hate the beautiful, but you want to ascend. What? What are you smoking? Anyway, I just wanted to talk about the Logos and beauty proportionality. And when people recognize what the evil is, you can more cleave towards it. Away from it, not towards it. Excuse me, I'll edit that out of this video. Cleave away from it. As one cleaves towards what is beautiful and one becomes wiser, one does become polarized. And this makes life harder. But the reason why it makes life harder is because people are so in love with materiality and stuff and things, and the image in the mirror, and they're in love with jewelry and possessions and money and family. When you're in the poo, and you're in a lake full of poo up to your eyeballs, the struggle to get out is painful, but you're headed in the right direction. Spiritual polarization necessitatively, there's that word again, must be painful. On many different fronts it must be painful. But it's always heading in the right direction. It's kind of like taking medicine that tastes really bad, makes you want to upchuck, but it's really good for you. Real medicine, not the stuff that modern doctors give you that it makes your life worse and more miserable, which is a large part of what's wrong with society, one of many things anyway. As somebody that's 95% covered in tattoos, when I see beautiful women, I don't care how beautiful the tattoo is. There's a great famous tattoo artist. Don't care. People are free to do whatever they want. But as someone with more tattoos than basically anybody, which is me, and man, I've got tattoos galore, okay? I see somebody that is very, very beautiful. And beauty is not subjective. That is a lie that modern society, beauty is subjective, eye in the beholder. Lie! Total lie. And I see super beautiful ladies, even handsome guy. What are you getting? Face tattoos? No. No. That's how somebody else identifies you. That's going to be there for the rest of your life unless you get it lasered off. This is somebody that is suffering, crying out from the inside. Yeah. I love it. I laugh when people ask me in live stream, are you going to get face tattoos? Like, what are you, crazy? No. I'm unhandsome enough as it is. Why make it worse by getting face tattoos? Like, you nuts? No, it's not going to happen. You tattoo your face. Like, never. Never going to happen. That's how you identify with other people. You see their face. Even if their body's covered in tattoos like mine. You know, unless somebody's really hot and you're looking at other parts of their body like, which I know people do. People look at each other's faces and communicate with each other's faces. This is the part that if you actually like the divine, the Logos, and you like beauty, you keep this untattooed, your face, for good reason. Even the neck is really too much. I'm not going to go there either. I wanted to talk about the divine and the beauty and the Logos and the proportionality of saying, which is a manifestation of the One, not in immanency, but as manifest, existentially, objectively. Because we cannot see the divine, the transcendent, the pure subjective, which is antecedent to form and phenomena. But we do give praise to it by law of natural order, and the Logos of life, the Logos of what is beautiful, and the Logos of the beauty and the proportionality of the things that we see. Happy New Year to you. I wish you all the best. Lux Evertas. I need a new chair. This chair is falling apart.